Welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today I want to come back and talk more about what has happened in the Republican National Committee platform for 2024 in respect to abortion. As many of you have heard, the plank in the platform, as they call it, about a national abortion ban, opposing abortion, and a national abortion law, pushing for a national abortion law, has been removed from the Republican Party platform. Now, Donald Trump ran in 2016, and the national abortion ban plank was in place. He ran in 2020, he lost in 2020, and it was in place. And now the feeling is by the the Republican Party leaders is that we need to remove that platform plank because that will cost us an election if we leave it in, because of the sentiment on abortion in the United States. And so what has essentially happened is pro-life Christians and Christians in general have been excluded on the issue of abortion from the Democratic platform. And the question is, what does that mean going forward? How should we respond? And is it a big deal or is it not a big deal? Does it mean that the Republican Party is now headed the way of the Democratic Party, only it's lagging behind 20, 30 years? Does it mean that on every single issue, moral and spiritual issue, Republicans are going to cave in as the Democrats did quickly over the last 50 years? And now the Republicans are taking a little longer, but they're going to get there anyway. It kind of looks like that. For example, on the issue of gay marriage and the LGBTQ and different LGBTQ related issues, it seems like the Republican Party is getting a little bit weaker and weaker as time goes on. It seems like now more and more Republicans are willing to use the so-called preferred pronouns, talking to a man who actually declares himself to be a woman. And so it seems like more and more Republicans and conservatives are willing to go along and call him she and use she, feminine pronouns. And so, for example, like on Fox News, the reporters now will refer to people who are transgender as she, even though they're actually biologically male. Is this a sign that the Republican Party is beginning to depart from the Christian faith and Christian values, and that we as Christians need to depart from it? Well, looks like it's headed in that direction, and it looks like it might get there at some point in the future, to the point where Christians will abandon the Republican Party because they're just Democrat light as far as their anti-God, anti-Christian values. But they're not there yet. That's the point. And so I want to just talk a little bit about what the situation is with this Republican platform plank that was removed. As Christians, we want a national abortion ban, totally. I mean, we don't want babies killed. We respect human life. Goes all the way back to the book of Genesis, where it says that God made them male and female in the image of God. He made them. So all people are made in the image of God. All the babies are made in the image of God. All the babies in the womb are made in the image of God. They carry that divine image within them. And so we oppose abortion because it's an assault on the direct creation of God, the image of God in the womb. And it makes no logical sense to say, well, they're not in the image of God in the womb, but then as soon as they pop out of the womb, they're the image of God. No. The image of God is within that baby forming within the womb, all those 9 months, from the point of conception. That's the only rational, logical, moral position to take, because everything else is arbitrary. Everything else that you might say, oh, the moment of birth, then they become human. That's arbitrary. Some babies are born before 9 months, others after 9 months. So you're going to say that the baby that was born before 9 months is more human than the baby that's still in the womb after 9 months? No, it's totally insane, totally arbitrary, totally up to subjective considerations. So that doesn't work. The only logical position is that the baby at the moment of conception is someone in the image of God that needs to develop, needs to grow, just like every child in or outside the womb until they reach full maturity at adulthood. So the Christian position is totally consistent. It makes sense. It totally fits reality. And so as Christians, we're committed to the pro-life position. So we want to see ultimately all abortions prohibited, totally, unapologetically. We don't apologize for that position because that's what God has communicated us in the Word of God. The Ten Commandments, thou shalt not murder. It's one of the big moral boundaries of the Jewish Christian faith. And it's one of the key teachings in the Bible. So, thou shalt not murder. You cannot take the life of an innocent human being. And so, we fight for the right to life. And of course, we want a national prohibition against it. We don't want any states to be killing babies. We don't want any bloodshed within the borders of the United States. This is our nation. This is our country. We have influence through elections and political say because of the democratic structure of our nation. And so we don't want anyone in our country, in any state, in any area, or any city or town, or any place, killing babies. That's just morally repulsive and repugnant. So no apologies there. Now, the question is, what's the best way to get to that point where no babies are killed and there's a total ban? Well, one of the ways that the pro-life movement has been working for the last 50 years and succeeded is overthrowing Roe v. Wade decision of 1973 that basically made a federal mandate that abortion cannot be prohibited by the states up until certain time periods and with certain strictures. So there was a national abortion policy in Roe v. Wade because it was handed down from the Supreme Court. Now, that was an evil, bad, sinful policy, and it stood for nearly 50 years, and pro-life Christians have been praying every day, marching, donating to the state national right to life and the Michigan and New York and California and Texas right to life groups, and been a lot of activity, effort, money, resources, time put into overturning Roe v. Wade. And one of the methods of doing that was thought that we could vote for the right president who would appoint the right judges to the court, and then these right judges would overturn Roe v. Wade. And lo and behold, that actually happened with Donald Trump in his first term. He was elected by a large majority of evangelical Christians, specifically because he promised that he would appoint judges who opposed abortion. Well, lo and behold, he was able to appoint 3 pro-life judges who actually, in the final months of his presidency, he was able to appoint the 3rd, Amy Coney Barrett, and then the next year, or within the next year or two, they were able to overthrow Roe v. Wade. So that was a great victory for Christians. That was a fantastic victory. It was a great victory for everyone who worked so hard. I mean, I've marched at abortion hospitals and held up picket signs to protest abortion. I have gone to pro-life rallies and meetings. I have prayed almost daily for the end of Roe v. Wade. And finally, I've prayed for pro-life justices that would overthrow Roe v. Wade. And sure enough, it happened. And so praise God for that. That is a great moral victory for the United States. Christians don't have a whole lot of moral and spiritual victories in this country lately because we live in a secular world, an ungodly, immoral world. But this was one of the great moral victories of our nation's history. And it's somewhat of a miracle that it actually happened, because here in the midst of this very godless, secular society, here is this pro-life Christian moral victory that pops up and really surprised a lot of people. So Donald Trump was very instrumental in getting those 3 justices on the court, and without his efforts, without his influence, it wouldn't have happened. So we have to thank the Lord, and we also have to thank Donald Trump for coming through and making good on his promises to Christians. Now the problem is Donald Trump is backing away from the abortion issue. And his advisors are telling him, hey, abortion is not a winning issue anymore. And if you want to win the election, you're going to have to soften your position on abortion and risk alienating your Christian voters in order to reach out to those in the middle to garner more votes and win the presidential election. And so he has followed his advisors' advice. Now, what this shows is pretty much what we all knew, and that was that Donald Trump was not truly, in his heart, principled pro-life. He is not totally committed on the basis of the biblical revelation and Christian values. He's not totally committed to being against abortion. He was more committed to winning the votes of the pro-life constituency and Christian voters than he was committed to the pro-life cause. So he's not truly pro-life. And so it's easier for him to simply soften his views on abortion because he really never had hard and fast views on abortion. He just simply entered into a transaction with the Christian population, the biblical Christian, evangelical Christian population, that he would appoint these judges if they voted for him. And so he entered into a contract, and he actually fulfilled his end of the contract. But it might be the case that he kind of feels like, okay, I've done my job, and now I've given you what you want, and so you need to trust me on this. We need to soften our view on abortion. And so he was the driving force, and his team was the driving force in the removal of the anti-abortion prohibition plank in the Republican Party. So they removed that. So now the thinking is, okay, so some of the people who are more moderate on abortion are willing to vote for me now. Trump thinks. That may be the case. I don't know. But as Christians, what do we think about this? This is actually a political game being played by the Trump team, and they're risk alienating Christians and angering Christians in the process. But they think, they feel, they hope that Christians won't be too angered and they will still vote for Donald Trump because of the alternative. And the alternative is the Democratic Party, and they are pure evil. They are pure evil, sinful, abominable evil. They are for abortion through all 9 months. They want taxpayer money to pay for abortions. They are so abortion happy that they want to send abortion money across the oceans to other nations so that they can kill babies over there just as well as kill babies here in the United States with Medicare and Medicaid and all kinds of government programs. So they are all in on abortion. They love to kill babies. Democratic Party loves baby killing. And so they brag about it. And Kamala Harris, the candidate for president, she's bragging about she was the first administration person to visit an abortion clinic, an actual live abortion clinic where they're killing babies. She shows up and she's smiling and endorsing what they're doing. That is how evil she is. So Trump is counting on Christians saying, okay, I don't like what they did by removing the abortion ban from the plank of the Republican Party, but I like Trump better and the Republicans better than the Democrats and Kamala Harris because they are evil. So he's hoping and betting that you will vote for him even if you didn't like what he did with the abortion plank. And you know what? He's probably right. I think we're still going to vote for him. I know I will probably still vote for him, even though I don't like what they did and I don't like the approach they're taking, because they're dealing with a life and death, very strong moral issue as if it's something you can play around with. And I don't like that. But he is the better candidate and he is the better party. He's part of the better party. So I will probably still vote for him, even though I don't like what he did. Now, is what he did, Donald Trump and his team and the Republican committee, is what they did wrong? It is wrong in the sense that they are lowering the standard. They're saying, okay, we're not going to shoot for the national abortion ban anymore. Even though the Democrats, they're saying right out loud, we're shooting for abortion-free America. We're free to have abortions anywhere in the United States. They are. Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party are all in on mandating all states to allow abortion. So they can speak freely and they don't have to worry about alienating their base. They can speak freely in their evil plotting and scheming about the sinful abortion practice. They can say, this is what we want to do. We want to have every state access to abortion, and we want the government to pay for women who want abortions, and we want to remove every barrier to abortion, and we want to promote the abortion pill and mail the abortion pill to everyone who can't travel to have surgical abortion. We're all in. Okay, they are proudly and loudly proclaiming all in for abortion, while the Republicans are trying to finesse and say, okay, well, we're going to remove the national abortion ban from our platform. Hopefully that'll get us some more votes, blah, blah, blah. So it's a more cowardly, it's a more, just despicable way of dealing with a very moral, grave issue in our day. Yet, the fact is that there are still states that have essentially banned abortion because of the overthrow of Roe v. Wade. So that is a blessing. And Christians can still work for the overthrow of abortion in every 50 state. And they can go state by state. So you have a number of states who have put very strict restrictions on abortion, and some have outlawed it basically every condition. So it's totally impossible to get an abortion in certain states. That's great. Okay, that's what we want to see in all 50 states. We're not there yet. So the fight is state by state. So it's a strategy issue. Some Christians say, well, no, it's got to be all or nothing. We got to get everything all at once. We've got to get all the states' prohibitions against abortion all at once, or we're a failure. Well, I don't believe that. I believe that we can fight state by state. I believe that we can begin to expand the Christian values that once were in this nation and that are so clearly enunciated in the Bible. We can state by state convince people, you cannot kill babies. You shall not kill babies. It'll bring the wrath of God upon our nation. Well, now the wrath of God will fall upon states specifically, and not so much upon the nation as a whole, because certainly the wrath of God cannot fall upon states that have banned abortion under all circumstances. Why would God punish that state when they've done everything they can to stop baby killing? So we need to continue to push for the prohibition of abortion in every single state. That has to be the strategy. While at the same time, we should encourage Donald Trump to rethink his strategy about dropping the national abortion ban, or at least say, sir, don't oppose an abortion ban, a national abortion ban. Don't oppose it. We want you, as pro-life Christians, we want you to oppose abortion wherever you can. We want you to bring back the Hyde Amendment, which means that you would not allow any federal agency or any government money to be spent on abortion at all in the United States or around the world. And we want you to bring back the Hyde Amendment, and we want you to oppose the funding of Planned Parenthood. How about that? Can you say you won't sign any bill that has funding for Planned Parenthood? Could you do that? We want you to know that this is a very important issue. And if you don't have it in your heart to see that it's a very important moral issue, if you don't fear God enough, hopefully he does fear God. He was almost killed by an assassin's bullet within an inch of his life. So hopefully he'll rethink and begin to think, wow, I better do the way of God, because God could take my life at any moment if he's angered by what I do and what I say. But if he doesn't have it in his heart to, out of principle, oppose abortion, well, then think about the millions of Christians who support him and do it because they want you to do it. And so stop all federal funding for abortion, either here in the United States or abroad. And also try to restrict abortion as much as possible in your administration, and put the squeeze on abortion providers, and kill the funding for Planned Parenthood, and all these things. There's a whole list of things that can be done by an administration to either fight abortion or fund abortion. We want the Trump administration to fight abortion. We want to oppose abortion. And if he thinks, okay, he can't get elected if he says right up front, I want an abortion ban for the whole nation. Okay, all right. Okay, we'll work with that. We'll work with that. He didn't say he didn't ultimately want every state to ban abortion. We don't want him to work against the passage of an abortion ban. We don't want him to come out against it. There have been indications that he has criticized actual pro-life actions by states that would restrict abortion. That is a bad sign. So what we want from Trump is that he not oppose anything that would end abortions. Don't criticize states that enact laws that would stop abortions. Don't say, like he has done, well, that's too far. It's not too far until all abortions are stopped. That's the goal. Stop all baby killing. Stop killing the babies. Stop killing all the babies. Stop killing the babies up until birth, from the moment of conception all the way up until birth. Stop killing the babies that are a result of rape. Stop killing the babies that are a result of incest. It's not their fault. Again, if you think it through logically, why should the babies that are the product of a rape or incest, why should they die for the sins of the father? Why should they be punished with their life ended because of some sinful active violence that was done against the woman? Why should the woman have the right to kill the baby in her womb? It is a baby. It is someone made in the image of God. So the logic is totally there. So we need to make the argument and stop running away from the abortion issue. I think the Democrats, they sense that the Republicans are squeamish or hesitant to get into the debate and actually dialogue and talk about it. We have the better arguments. We have the moral high ground, you might say. So what are we squeamish and what are we hesitant and why do we remain silent while the Democrats, who are evil and wicked and sinful and are promoting the devilish practice of baby killing, why do they feel confident that they can state their views out in the open and feel confident in expressing their views on all these sinful positions? And we have the righteous position, and we have the morally and intellectually superior position. So why are we the ones backing down? This is the ultimate intimidation. The Democrats intimidate Republicans because a lot of Republicans are wimpish. They're cowardish. They're just simply weak-willed. They don't have the courage or the convictions to just stand up and say, yeah, okay, we want a national abortion ban, but if the party thinks it has to drop it from the plank, that doesn't mean it's dropped from the goals. It just means that it's not in the plank of the Republican Party platform. I don't like it being dropped, but it doesn't mean that the goal is now finished or that the pro-life movement is finished or Christians don't have any hope of seeing the end of abortion across the whole country in the 50 states. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that Republicans are not going to advertise the fact that they're now pushing for an abortion ban, national abortion ban. No, they're dropping that and they're saying our signaling will be something different. Again, I don't like that. It's sort of a cowardly way. You should have the courage of your convictions and then defend those positions in vigorous debate. But if they're going to take that cowardly position, we have to realize and understand it doesn't mean the pro-life movement is over. And it doesn't mean there eventually won't be a national abortion ban. It just means that we fight it out in the states. So we have to persuade and work hard in all of the 50 states. There are going to be some holdouts to the very end, and you can name those states on your hand. There's California and New York, for example, Chicago, Illinois, and some of the bigger cities. They're going to be hard nuts to crack, but don't worry about them right now. Don't fret over that. Work in the states that there's the real possibility, end abortion there, like we already have in a few states, and keep spreading the truth and spreading the Christian light. And eventually, by the grace of God, we'll begin to corner these few holdout states, and then the pressure will mount to the point where they will have to give up their bloody child sacrifice and conform to Christian morality. And so that's our hope. So there is optimism even in the midst of the Republicans dropping the abortion ban plank. There is optimism. There's hope. There's much to do. We have to get in there and fight the fight, state by state. You might say hand-to-hand combat, spiritually speaking, morally speaking, but we can do it. And we shouldn't be discouraged by the recent developments in the Republican Party. Hope that's been helpful. We'll see you back next week on another edition of Christ and Culture. God bless.